I'm good. I'm just curious, what did you do now? Uh-huh. So what, did you break your foot? Okay. Oh, great. Well, good to see you. Well, hanging in there, 2 hips now, so yeah, it's tough. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Before we get started, I have a very important question I need everyone to pay attention to. We've got the 4th of July coming up. Raise your hand if you're going to be grilling on the 4th of July. I see one, okay. Jacob, keep your hands up. Jacob, pay attention so we know where to go on the 4th of July. We can't go to Eric's house. Eric's going to be grilling carrots and other stuff, so we need to go places that's going to have like ribs and a steak or two, something like that. But guys, go ahead and stand. We're going to sing a few songs, have a good time this morning.
You have come and we have found life everlasting. Now alive to know your freedom, never ending. You alone have made a way for us in your love. You are life, I'm living in the light of my Savior, dancing in the arms of forever. I'm singing like I'm walking on water. You are life, alive in me. Help us out, come on. From grayest sky to living color, you have called us. In your life, your light uncovered the world to see now. You alone have made a way for us in your love. You are life, I'm living in the light of my Savior, dancing in the arms of forever. I'm singing like I'm walking on water. You are life, alive in me. I give my life to follow, 'cause your love is all I want now. You are life, you are life, alive in me. For all the world to find your love, for all the world to see that you are God, forever be lifted high. The one who holds the universe and every beating heart across the earth. Jesus be lifted high. You searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along and put me back together, and every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley, and there's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing again. Come on, sing it out. Hallelujah, God, above it all. Hallelujah, God, unshakable. Hallelujah, you have done great things. You've done great things. Our hero of heaven, you've conquered the grave. You free every captive. You break every chain, oh God. You have done great things. We dance in your freedom, awake and alive. Oh Jesus, our Savior, your name lifted high, oh God. You have done great things. You have done great things. Oh God, you do great things. You do great things. Oh God.
You guys can go ahead and take a seat. Amen.
Good morning, Eric. We're glad you're here today. Way better than being stuck in an elevator last Sunday. If you missed it, he missed it too. But we're glad you're here, and we're glad everybody else is here this morning. If you're watching with us online, we extend a special welcome and just want you to know that you are part of this church family, no matter where you're sitting this morning. So welcome. I'm Molly Troutman. I'm the Connections Director here at church. We are so grateful to be a church family. If you are not connected with any small group, I just ask the question, why? What can we do as your church family to help you get connected to other people in your church that will journey with you? Because sometimes faith and life meet, and you need those small groups. So if you'd like to get connected and be a greeter, work in the kitchen with hospitality, or simply go to a small group on Sunday morning, please see me and let me help you find a group that will be meaningful to you, because having that support system, however, is so comforting. So that is my job, but it is more so my hope for each and every one of us to get connected here. So welcome. If you want to get connected, you can text the word Sunday to 865-344-2828. We'll start a conversation and find what's best for you to get connected here at Middlebrook Pike.
Thank you so much, Molly. And a second welcome from me. My name is Jacob, one of the pastors here. And welcome to Middlebrook Pike United Methodist Church, a church where apparently a lot of unexpected things happen. As Molly made mention, Eric gave his best Steven Tyler impression last week, loving in an elevator. I could tell the Aerosmith fans out there, thank you. I did hear a rumor that nobody knew he was in there until they heard somebody start to sing Amazing Grace, and they're like, where in the world is that coming from? It's coming, Eric, you're never going to live this down. We're going to keep bringing it up to try to get a rise out of you. I hope you understand this. Maybe one of these days you'll floor us over it, but gosh, there's too many elevator puns. But welcome this morning. And, a lot of unexpected things do happen, but I do hope that we can all expect, if nothing else, an opportunity to come and to worship and to experience in some way the presence of God here with us, whether that's through music or sharing or just talking with others or however it may be, this experience of God and this knowledge that you are loved by God. And we hope that we can at least be a place where you know not only you are loved by God, but have others, have ourselves express that we love you as well. And hope you get a chance to feel love and to have an opportunity to express love to another person here in this place and also throughout your whole week. I hope you get those opportunities. I want to draw your attention to a couple of quick things. I do hope you check out this. We have some cool opportunities coming up. Next week, we'll start a backpack drive similar to the buckets we did a month or two ago. And so over the month of July, we'll be having backpacks and inviting you to gather with others and to fill those with supplies to be given out to students as they begin their new school year at our local elementary school right over there down the street. Also, we are looking at an opportunity to go to Marion, Virginia. We've talked about this, and there's a lot of information to go to Project Crossroads here later in the summer. If you are even just a little bit interested in that, they're going to do a quick little informational meeting to see who all might be interested in doing a trip like that in the fellowship hall right after the service. And, you know, Cindy Gibson will be heading that up. If you don't know who that is, you can ask me and I'll point her out to you. But also want to see if there's not interest for that, we might shift and understand that it can be hard to get away for a whole week now, especially as so many work responsibilities are ramping up. So we might be looking at some other mission opportunities as well. So if you'd be interested in even doing some mission around the area through an organization like Project Backyard, you know, we'd love for you to go and just say, hey, yeah, put my name down on that list. I may want to come and when I have free time on a Saturday or something like that, I'd love to have the invitation to go out and to help somebody here in this city as well. So check that out, and if you're interested, go talk to Cindy right after the service in our fellowship hall. And now as we continue, I invite you, let us bow our heads and come together in prayer. Oh God, we thank you so much for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to be together. We thank you for the opportunity to come and to worship you. And God, as we take this time and focus on you, may we see your presence. May we feel and hear you working in our lives so that we can see you all around us. And God, we ask that you move in us and draw us deeper into faith with you, draw us deeper into relationship with others so that we can know that we don't walk this journey alone. Amen. And that kind of, I guess, is a little bit of a theme for today. Because when we talk about faith and life, it really can be described best, I think, as a journey. It is a moving from point A to point B to point C and beyond, right? And so often we talk about this coming together, this faith journey, as we're almost travelers. We're travelers on this road, and in this moment, we're all travelers on this road together. We're coming and sharing in similar experiences and coming and learning and growing and hopefully going and doing. But as we also want to clarify something just right quick, as we talk about this is a journey together, I want you to know that I don't think that this journey that we're walking should be a chariot or a taxi service. I don't think that's the way we move on this journey. I think there's lots of great ways to chariots and taxi services are great, right? We need those in our world, such as, you know, I've seen some of you drive. I do not want you behind the cockpit of an airplane, right? I'm very glad that somebody is taxiing us in an airplane and we don't all have individual planes at this stage to move around, right? So there are places where that kind of stuff is good, but when it comes to faith, I think it's really important for us to say that our faith shouldn't be just this idea where we can just sit back, relax, and let somebody else take us where we need to go, to let somebody else move us along on this journey called life. So we definitely try our best to not tell you exactly how you should believe or how you should act, probably is more importantly than that, but invite you to learn a process or to learn a method, right? For you to discover for yourselves how to express your faith and your life. And I think it is really important for us to learn a method for living rather than to just learn what the answers are and kind of fill in the blank as we go along. Because I don't know about you, but the more I live, the more I kind of discover that there really isn't any, or very few, if any at all, one size fits all answers, especially to life's great questions, right? Here recently, this question of abortion has really been, seemingly everywhere. And we talked a lot about that a month ago. And if you're curious what we said, you can go back and watch that, because I'm not really going to talk much about it today. But I hope that we can all start to see just a little bit that neither the answer of pro-life or the answer of pro-choice are perfect, one-size-fits-all answers. There's going to be things, there's going to be situations in life that differ, and we need to respond differently. And if we learn how to approach that question rather than with a predetermined one of those two answers, but with the method of such as holding life as precious. If we approach this issue, this question with this method of we are going to try to hold life as precious as much as we possibly can, I think that'll lead us to much better answers as people. And yes, as we try to live that out in so many of the questions in life, we're going to find that instead of just two answers, we're probably going to end up with millions of answers, not just to the abortion question, but so many of life's questions. We're going to end up with millions and millions of answers. You know what? That's totally okay. It's totally okay that there's not a one-size-fits-all answer to every one of life's questions, because life is messy. It's not neat and orderly. I don't know if anybody who has ever lived life and has sat there and said, you know what, everything happened exactly like I thought it would and that I hoped it would, right? No, we live life and we find that it's messy and we have to kind of clean up and move on, and not everything is perfect. Not everything is efficient. Sometimes it feels very far from efficient. And if life is like that, then it shouldn't surprise us that faith is also like that, because our faith and our life are so intertwined. And so life is messy and faith is messy. And I think it's supposed to be that way. Which is why we're not going to try to give neat and tidy answers here at church, but rather to invite you to learn how you can walk this journey. I think it's so important for us to learn how we can walk this journey, and then to find a community of others who we can learn from. Right? That's part of learning to walk, whom we can learn from and whom we can share with and to walk together. Bruce talked about discipleship last week, and discipleship is a very churchy word, right? But basically it just means this process by which a person learns to walk like Jesus and inside the church. Discipleship can mean a lot of non-faith things, but it means inside the church, a process by which a person can learn to walk like Jesus. And learning to walk like Jesus is so much more than just replicating Jesus' steps and trying to walk in Jesus' footsteps along this path. There's a difference between copying somebody else's steps and learning to walk like them. Dallas Willard gave a great example in one of his books many years ago that I just love, and I'm going to update it, but this is his original idea, and he used a sports ball analogy, and so he used baseball, but I'm going to use basketball, and I'm going to say, look, I can look at Michael Jordan, the GOAT. You can argue with me all you want. That's not going to change that truth, right? Michael Jordan, the GOAT. And I can look at his famous dunk. You know the one I'm talking about, the free throw line dunk. It gets highlighted all the time. I can look at where he took off. I can look at how he held the ball. I can look at how he held his tongue. I can sit there and analyze every moment of that flight. And I can sit there and I can try to recreate and copy exactly what he did. Run as far as he did, jump at the same point. Am I going to dunk that basketball? No. Why? Because I'm just trying to copy his moves. I have not integrated his life. How could Michael Jordan do that? He got up every day and worked out and practiced. He lived basketball. I don't know if you watched that documentary, The Last Dance, but you may not love Michael Jordan after that, and that's okay, but at least hopefully you come to respect that the man lived, breathed basketball. That was his whole life. And so when we saw that, we saw all of this that he had integrated into his own way of life. And so when he took off from the free throw line, of course, he dunked that basketball. And if we want to do that, we would have to integrate that way of life just like he did. So when it comes to learning to walk like Jesus, until we are willing to integrate Jesus' own way of life into our own, we can try to copy the steps. We can try to answer the ways that Jesus answered. And we might learn a little bit. That's not a horrible thing. But we're never going to learn to be able to walk that journey on our own. So what is that process? What is this path of discipleship that we can walk together? I think that these times of gathered worship, whether you are in this room together or whether you're watching online, I think they are so important. It's a great and a needed thing. And I think that these can be a place where we might learn something, where we might experience the presence of God. But when it comes to learning to walk the journeys of faith, our faith journeys, gathered worship can really serve as a great starting point. It might be a great place where you come in and you're like, okay, I'm inspired. I want to learn how to dunk the ball. I want to learn how to walk this path. It can serve as a series of rest stops along our way as we're journeying. It can serve as those great lookouts where you can just pull off and just stop and stand and be amazed. I think gathered worship is so important and needs to be a part of our journey. But let's be honest, it's not the best place for us to learn how to actually walk. So if you're one of those who might feel like your faith journey is a little stagnant, and that maybe that gathered worship just isn't helping you grow like it first did. Like first you come, you're inspired, you're like, yes, it's great. But now it doesn't feel the same. Then don't worry, because that's exactly how I think you should feel. Because gathering for worship is a great way to learn and to worship. But it doesn't often give us the opportunities we need to express ourselves, to experiment, to learn directly from another person who is walking like we are, which is where this idea of small groups comes in. Never forget, Jesus may have preached to thousands, but he walked with 12, right? And it was those 12 that went on to continue to spread that way of life and to change lives all over the place. It's the opportunities where we have to come and the chance to speak and the chance to listen, the chance to learn and the chance to share, the chance to try out ideas or to share opinions, and then listen to others and realize that our ideas and opinions might not have been the best way we could have done something. It's in those small groups where we best learn how to walk this journey of faith and life. Last week, Bruce mentioned these things that we're learning to call affinity groups. Affinity is like, you have an affinity with something, you have something in common with somebody else. And so an affinity group are opportunities, they're great opportunities for us to get to know each other. And oftentimes, these affinity groups are coming together over something that we share in common. Such as maybe you have a love of coffee, and so you go after the service and you get a cup of coffee and you share that experience with others, and you get to know who they are, what kind of coffee they like, or that they don't actually like coffee and that they prefer tea. And you get to talk to them and learn. You're building a relationship over this common affinity of a hot beverage. Or maybe a place for an affinity is to go and to be a part of a hiking group where you go and someone says, hey, I'm going hiking, and you say, oh, I like to hike too, and so you go and you hike. Or fishing, or play dates with kids. Or there's so many ways for us to come together because we do share so many interests, right? Anytime we come together over a shared interest and get to learn about somebody else, I think is a fantastic thing. And these groups are great because having relationships with others is what makes this next step even possible. Because do know, affinity groups are not the goal. Being a part and sharing a cup of coffee with somebody is not the end result that we're hoping here in our faith journeys, right? It's one of the many great starting points, but it's not the goal. The goal is to come to trust the one that you is beside you enough that you're willing to struggle with learning how to walk with their help, and eventually learning to walk on your own. We are right now in the midst of watching a human being literally learn how to walk, right? As our little daughter is starting to move around and get very mobile. What happens all the time? She falls. She gets stuck in places she can't get out of, and she cries. What does she need? Someone who knows how to walk to come into her life, to pick her up, to take care of her, and to give her the room she needs to learn how to walk. Learning how to walk our faith journeys is not something that happens like this. Just like a child doesn't get up one day and just goes from not moving at all to running. It may feel like it, but there's a lot of falling and learning in that midst, right? And so when we come and move in our journeys, it's so important to have those relationships with others, that as we move, as we try to learn how to walk, we trust another. Relationships built over those shared things as we learn that how great this human is because we share a love for coffee, for hiking, or whatever those may be. And then we move into that next step where we begin to learn how to walk. So if you feel like your faith journey is stagnant, which can often feel like maybe a lack of interest in worship or in God in general, right? And if you'd like to see if there's a way to reignite it, then I would suggest try engaging with one of these affinity groups. Start making relationships with others that you don't know yet. And it may take a few tries, but eventually you'll find yourself moving to that next step. And if you feel like you're in a good place in your faith journey, then do the same thing. Try engaging in some of these affinity groups because you might meet somebody while you're doing that who needs somebody who is walking ahead of them, who understands a little bit more about how to walk this journey. And you can help them on their journey. And so because we all have a part in this next step. There's never a moment where you got everything figured out, right? And so we can all always be learning, but sometimes we need to shift from understanding that there's so much that we can learn. And now the best next step for us to learn is to teach. And so we make that move. Because when we come and we talk about small groups that take on growing in their faith together, we find that they end up being mixed with a bunch of people, some who are mentors and some who are mentees. Because it's in those mixed relationships where everyone begins to grow. And it's this relationship of mentor and mentee, whether that's one-on-one or in a small group, but in something small enough where we have room to share our voice and listen to others, that we all can find ourselves participating in. And this is what I want to kind of talk about as we wrap up this morning. There's a story in 2 Kings chapter 2 that tells of a relationship between a mentor and a mentee. Now, these two men's names are Elijah and Elisha. So I ask for a little bit of forgiveness because I'm really afraid that I'm going to mix those names up as I say them, or you might hear the wrong one because, let's be honest, Elijah and Elisha, if I said them real fast, can you really tell the difference? So I'm not trying to disrespect the story, but I want to change the names just so that we can hopefully, not get them mixed up, because I think it's really important to keep track of which one is the mentor and which one is the mentee. So in 2 Kings 2 tells the story of Elijah and Elisha. From here on out will be known as Yoda and Luke, because that's probably a pretty famous mentor and mentee, Jedi Master and Padawan relationship that we know, right? So when I say Yoda, I mean Elijah. When I say Luke, I mean Elisha. Yoda, mentor, Luke, mentee. And so as the story goes, Yoda is being sent around to various cities by God. And every time that God says, Yoda, I want you to go to this city, Yoda goes and tells Luke to stay behind. And every time Luke says, no, I am going with you. And I think this is an important thing about these relationships, that we need to be very intentional about engaging with each other. For those mentees, for the Lukes who are out there, expressing this desire to want to be taught, I think is so important. How often do we see in our stories in modern day and our stories in ancient days where we have this relationship where the mentor is reluctant? Right? The mentor is reluctant, and we need that persistence of the mentee. And oftentimes that persistence comes because you're looking at the world and you're like, I'm not at a point where I can impact the world that it needs to be, but I need to get to that point. And if you feel like that, if you look at the struggles of life, then take heart, because we can grow into that role where we can go out and make huge impacts. And so sometimes the first thing we need to do is look around, and in those relationships that we have, we see somebody who is walking ahead of us, and we're like, we need you, I need you to be a part of my life, to challenge me, to let me grow in life. And I hope if you don't have that person, that you go out and try to find that person. And I think often for the mentors who seem so reluctant, there's a lot of temptations on that mentor. The temptation to not let someone learn from us, maybe because we don't feel like we are ready to be a teacher, that we're worthy to teach. Here's a little hint. You're never ready to teach. You're not. You only get ready by doing it. You only learn how to do it by actually doing it, right? There is no instant thing that'll make you feel 100% ready to get up there and to go, yes, I can do this. It takes the experience of being a teacher to be a good teacher. And so sometimes, maybe if you find somebody who is coming and saying, no, I need you to help me, maybe that's just a way of them recognizing, I see something in you. There is something in you that is worth sharing, and you need to share. And that's a calling to us to step out and say, okay, I'm going to trust you because I know you, and I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn on the fly, and I'm going to share. Or maybe mentors might feel a little hesitant to teach because they look at the mentee, and they're like, you are just way too different. You come from a different generation. You're listening to different music than I like. You're encountering news and the internet, and I don't even understand all that's going on in your world, right? You are just too different. And with that, I think it's important to remind ourselves that sometimes the way we've always done it, or the way that works for us, isn't the way that it works for others. Just because we've always done it that way doesn't mean it should always be done that way. And that does not mean that the way that we have done it, the way that we have experienced it as those mentors, was necessarily wrong. It could have been totally right for us to have lived life that way. But because the world around us has changed, the ways that we interact with the world, the ways that we grow, the ways that we express ourselves also change. And so I think it's neat. We see in this story here in 2 Kings, and I think we see as we walk in our own faith, that so often this way that we are called to walk is changing constantly because it is reconfiguring to meet the challenges of today. Because there are challenges today that weren't even present 10, 15 years ago that we've got to figure out how to deal with. This being the most infamous one, right? When I was a teenager, I didn't have to worry about this. I didn't have to worry about social media. All I had to worry about was finding a phone somewhere, putting a quarter in it to call home to mom and tell her that I was still alive, right? That was life. Life has changed. And so we need to adapt how we deal with life. And so as we come and we mentor someone, guess what? We're going to teach them all that we know, and they're going to be different than us. And that's okay. And in fact, that's actually good. And so as Yoda and Luke continue on, as Luke's just saying, I'm following you wherever you go, they eventually come to the Jordan River. And at the Jordan River, Yoda takes off his cloak and hits the Jordan River, and kind of a callback to that Exodus story. The river parts, and Luke and Yoda cross across the Jordan River on dry land, right? And they get to the other side. And when they get to the other side, Yoda asks Luke, well, what can I do for you? And Luke says, I want to have twice your spirit. I want to be twice of what you are. And I think this is a great point for us. When we look at this mentor and mentee relationship, we should always kind of move into this relationship with an understanding that that one who is learning is going to be greater. Because that's exponential growth, isn't it? I've never liked the saying, I hope that I'm half the human that somebody else is. Why? Because such as my dad, that's where I've always heard it. Like, I hope I'm half the man my dad is. I've never liked that. Because if my dad has taught me well, I'm going to be twice the man my dad is, right? Because we're going to grow beyond, because we're going to take their experiences into our own life, and then we're going to let them grow into something even more. And so now, generation after generation, we become more and more and more. And so I think it's important for mentees as we move into this, understanding that what we can grow into can be absolutely amazing, can be greater than anything we've ever seen before. And the mentor, we come in and we share these important things of life, right? We share our experiences. We share our own encounters with God and how we've struggled with faith. And as we give them off, we let them take a new life, take on their own life in the mentee. And find quite often that not only do they become new and different, but they become bigger and more than we ever would have imagined that they could. Then after Yoda and Luke have crossed the river, have had this encounter, Yoda comes and God comes and takes Yoda up into heaven, leaving Luke behind, right? And you see that Yoda is now gone up into heaven with God, and Luke is now left behind in charge. And Luke goes back to that same Jordan River, but now from the other side, grabs the mantle that Yoda had left behind, hits the river with that mantle, and the river parts. And across dry land, Luke walked. Part of the way that we see this relationship working is when we see these moments, right? When we've seen these moments. It's best described, and I love this little limerick thing, but you have the mentor who comes first, right? The mentor does while the mentee watches. Then the mentor does while the mentee helps. Then the mentee does while the mentor watches. Or helps, then the mentee does while the mentor watches. We can see that this relationship, that growth is happening in both people, in all people. When we start to see the mentee, the Lukes of the world, rise up and take on the world and start to do things just like the mentor, just like Yoda did, but start to do them in amazing ways. And then the mentee becomes a mentor themselves as they continue to grow and learn. And as they learn how to be a mentor, they're teaching a mentee who becomes even greater, as now we've got Ray in the picture to kill that analogy, right? As we see more and more and more how our faith can not only lead us in an amazing journey, but help us grow as a community, as a people, to be more and more so that we might take on these difficult challenges in life. But it is a huge thing, but it is a very personal process. One that can only happen, I think, in smaller groups of people. One that can only happen when there's intentionality, when we come in and we say, yes, we're going to be intentional about this. We're going to pursue this relationship. We're going to learn and realize it's not going to go perfect, but it's going to take us somewhere great. One that can only happen when you decide to learn how to walk your faith journey with your own 2 feet. Only then can we come and begin to learn to walk together, walking in different strides, walking with different shoes on or no shoes on, walking together, though, by coming and building relationships and then learning how others walk and then developing our own stride, guided and empowered by others all around us. This is what faith, this is what life can be like when we come and let God be present in it.
From you, my Father, dependable love that won't run, the greatest of gifts that come from my Father, my Father.
For our morning offering. We have 2 main ways to give. You can go to securegive.com, or if you have the app, use that to give. And we have offering receptacles off to each side of the room. So why don't you go ahead and do that if you so choose. Everyone else, just go ahead and stand and let's sing a couple more choruses with us.
Great is your love.
about this morning, guys, is we don't have to pack up any chairs today. VBS went great, so we can leave everything out. Roger's very happy about that. And I'm very serious about, both Jacob and I took mental notes of who's grilling for the 4th of July. And so we're going to make the rounds. Jacob will bless the food for you, and then I'll eat it. So have a great weekend. Look forward to seeing you guys next week. Bye.